And again, because we're not, doing this live, it doesn't really matter what we say. All right. Um, Welcome to the Masturbation Chronicles, a show where we dive into the fascinating and often misunderstood world of sex, intimacy, and self-pleasure. My name is Aubrey Moore. I'm a clinical sexologist and a sex and intimacy coach for women. I'm the host of this show. And today we're going to bring on my second guest, who I'm going to be introducing here, Tonya, Coach Tonya. And she is the CEO of the Gingered Rose LLC, which I'd love for you to tell people where you got that name from in a little bit.
Sure.
So, for those of you who don't know Tonya, Tonya was diagnosed with carcinosarcoma of the uterus in March 2007 and has personally walked the path from diagnosis to survivor with dignity and grace. Taking charge of her mindset first, then building her support team and adding in alternative wellness modalities that worked with the treatment set up by her medical team, Tonya learned how to go from surviving to thriving. And she can teach you to successfully navigate such a devastating diagnosis. Tonya has created the resource she needed while she walked her cancer journey and did not have. Tonya has also studied herbs for over 30 years and is a certified aromatherapist. I didn't know that. That's so cool. She's also ordained in the Universal Life Church and is the founder and director of Circle Haven Coven, a group that practices spirituality. That sounds so nice. Using her over 40 years of spiritual practices, she helps guide people to harmonize mind, body, and spirit. When she's not leading her clients online, you can find Tonya with her cute hubby, yes, who I just met, walking her dogs with her husband and reading. She also enjoys exploring different cultures through food. Absolutely. It is her mission to help a million people transform their cancer journey, going from surviving to thriving. And she can help cancer survivors to adapt the right mindset, create a dynamic support team for yourself, and utilize the correct alternative wellness modalities to your oncologist treatment plan, in addition to the plan that you have, so you can conquer your fear and transform your mindset. This is awesome. Man, I am so filled with happiness right now. And I just want to like give you one of these, like, dude, you're fucking rocking it. So welcome,
Thank you.
Tonya. Welcome, Tonya.
Thank you, Aubrey. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell the audience, right? Tell the folks who are going to be watching this tomorrow, what are you up to right now? What's good in your life? Because that was a pretty you took us on a journey with the intro, right? Or I took us on a journey with the intro of where you came from. So what is really awesome with you right now?
I, I hmm, Gratitude. Like living each day, reminding myself of what I'm grateful for.
Mm,
That's what's good, especially in hard times. Monday was the anniversary of the passing of my father, so it was a very difficult day for me.
mm,
But I do think that taking the time to appreciate what you have and who you love on a daily is very helpful.
yeah. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So earlier I asked, or in your intro, the gingered rose. I'm sure people would love to know how you came up with this name and what it means to you.
So the ginger portion is my husband. He's a ginger and he's a little bit spicy, like ginger is. and I'm the rose, sweet and bitter. So when you have rose tea, it's a little bit bitter, but it's also sweet and lovely. So it
That's
does,
awesome.
and there's a little bit of thorns with that, you know,
I love it.
because you need that. You need that when you go through hard times. You need to be a little thorny and
hmm
determined.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. I'd say that's an understatement. So what are you up to now in the world? After going through this journey and helping other people transform their journey. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I was going through my cancer journey, I developed a three-step mindset. Mindset is number one. And for me, I had one item on my to-do list every day, and that was to change my underwear. I would take off my dirty underwear and I would put on a clean pair
Mm.
of Wonder Woman's panties, which is where Power Pantaloons comes from, which is my podcast.
I love that.
That is a physical representation of me choosing to live because it's an active choice, and you have to decide daily or even sometimes in the moment whether or not you're going to continue to fight for your life.
hmm
The second thing is you have to build a support network that is in alignment with the fact that you're going to kick cancer's ass, and everybody needs to be on board with that. You don't need your friends, family, or your medical team giving you expiration dates or mourning you while you're standing in front of them.
Mm,
That's gross, right? Like, and I
yeah.
know that
Oh.
some people don't know how to handle this kind of thing, but
hmm
according to the American Cancer Society, one in every two people will have some form of cancer before they die. So this impacts everybody on the planet. Either
hmm
you are the survivor or you are the supporter of the survivor, or both,
hmm
or both. And the third thing for me was using alternative wellness modalities such
Mm,
as Reiki, aromatherapy, herbs, uh, chromotherapy, sound healing, detoxifying baths,
right.
walking barefoot on the ground, making sure that I had a million plants in my bedroom so my sleeping environment was oxygenated. And like I didn't even realize that until a month ago that that was what I had done, right? Like
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
still discovering things that I put into place intuitively while I was going through my journey.
Mm,
Um, and so what I'm doing now is I want to be the resource I needed and didn't have, because your medical providers are very interested in handling the cancer, but they're not talking to you about side effects. They're not talking about what might happen to your body if you make it. Like they're
mm,
overwhelmed with the fact that, they have so many cancer patients, and it's sort of like I like when I talk about it, do you remember the I Love Lucy episode in the chocolate factory and the like little chocolate bonbons that's kind of how I feel that doctors might in like,
feel like they're just like there it's like cancer everywhere. So they're just focused on the problem because there's so much of it coming at them, right? So much of that
yes,
problem.
that's the envisionment that I get with that.
hmm
So yeah, we could talk about
Wow.
hair loss. We could talk about poopsidents. We could talk about sexual dysfunction. There's so much unknown or not studied or whatever because just focused on the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing to hear. I love that you just jumped right into like, hey, okay, this is what I do now. And I'm helping other people with this and gave us kind of these steps because it really shows that our bodies know what we need. Um, that's a big part of my sexual journey right now. And what I lead other women through is like just reconnecting with your body in a way that you build a relationship with it that's loving and nourishing. And
Yeah.
so, um, yeah, it's just that's kind of what came to mind as well. It's just like your body was like, okay, let's try all these other alternative medicines to see. And it's funny because they're alternative when those are the ones that, had a big impact on your thrivingness, you know?
I holistic. I believe that you
Mm,
need to treat mind, body, and spirit at the same time to get to the root of the problem.
yeah.
And Western medicine doesn't really do that right now, not effectively.
Mhm.
I think there are more and more providers deciding that they want to treat that way. But
Yeah.
it's slow in coming and
That's
it needs to move faster.
right. Of course. Yeah. So, I'd love to kind of move into, you sharing a bit more about your cancer journey, maybe sharing what type of cancer it was, and just really what were I mean, there are probably so many challenges I could only imagine, but what were the challenges, the big ones that you went through in that journey?
I would love to. This might take a minute or three. So
Take your
it was
loving time.
carsosarcoma of the uterus. A healthy female uterus is 4 ounces. When they removed mine from my body, it was over 10 pounds. So if you want to look at the science
Mm.
behind that, like I had a very rare, very aggressive cancer, and yet my oncologist never gave me an expiration date, never said to me, "Ah, you're gonna die." Like that never happened, which I am grateful for because I wouldn't have put up with that. Because mindset, I really do believe that, as Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Mm,
So
yeah. And
actively
knowing you,
choosing.
if your oncologist said that, then they wouldn't be your oncologist. You know what I mean? You'd
I
be like, all
loved
right,
my
fuck you.
oncologist.
Bye.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, he did tell me that he didn't want me to take the herbs because
Mm,
they would counteract the chemotherapy. But he's laying of the hands, the oils, the massages, whatever. So
yeah.
you want to look at colors, you want to smell things, I'm fine, whatever. But just don't put any herbs. I'm like, okay, all right. So I stayed away from that for the most part. I had herbal tea once in a while, but it wasn't, I did the rest of it with the massages with the essential oils
Yeah.
and the all of that. Some of the challenges. So when they tell you that you're going to lose your hair with your chemo, everybody knows that, right? Like, so you're going to lose your hair. So you do wild things. I rocked a lovely little mohawk for about a week, and then
It's
the
awesome.
night before I went into the hospital for my first round of chemo, we shaved the rest of my hair off. Fine. I got back from the hospital. I went to take a shower and I washed myself and I ended up with a handful of pubic hair. And then I spent 45 minutes on the bathroom floor crying because I lost my hair. And you don't like, you're gonna lose your hair, but you
Yeah.
don't know. Like
Hmm.
it never occurred to me that it would be all my hair. Like I don't know why
Yeah.
it didn't occur to me because it should have, but like, you're not thinking completely rational. So when you lose your hair, you lose your hair. I came home from a weekend and my sister opened the door and she looked at me. She's like, and I'm like, I have no eyebrows.
Mm,
It's funny now, but it was not funny at the time.
right. Wow.
Yeah, some of the challenges. Um, radiation on your belly. Like I had a complete hysterectomy. So they took out everything.
Okay.
And well, that was an alarm. Excuse me.
Oh, all good. Doesn't matter.
Dinner time, right? So they took out everything and I still get pap smears because there could develop
Hmm.
cancerous cells at the end of what I term my windsock because it's not attached to anything. It's just That's not the technical term, ladies and gentlemen. It's not.
I I love you. I love your humor with it. I mean, I know, like you said, at the time, it probably wasn't like that, but now when you're looking back, it's just, it's
At
really
the time, it
hopeful.
was brutal. At the
Hmm.
time, it was brutal. Yeah, and one of the biggest challenges that I had is nobody told me that there would be any kind of sexual dysfunction. I was
Hmm.
not made aware, and I
So they
I
talk
didn't
about
think
all the other symptoms or potential symptoms, right? But they
no,
don't,
no,
they
not
didn't
really.
talk about, they don't talk about that either.
No,
Interesting.
not really. Mm-mm,
Okay.
no. So I wasn't able to have any kind of climax, and that went on for 5 years.
Mm.
Part of that, though, I think, is when you lose one of the pieces of your core femininity, and as one of my friends so aptly put, your womanhood tried to murder face you, and then like I mean that, but that's what happened, right? Like my feminine core tried to kill me, and then there's the journey of trying to figure out how do I make my way back to sacred femininity and
Hmm.
feeling like a woman, and you know society, you have to have a uterus to be a woman, which is a
Yeah.
ridiculous notion.
And same
um
with the hair too. A lot of people
oh
view
yeah,
femininity with like long flowing hair and stuff. And so that probably, I don't want to put words in your mouth. That may have had an effect on that too.
it absolutely did. I decided I was going to be outrageous, and I had still have a few of them, but purple, yellow, blue, green, red, orange, in many shapes and sizes. And I went to my first radiation appointment in a pastel pink I Dream of
Yes.
Jeannie bouffant wig hairdo with a matching outfit and little
Ah,
slippers and a Hello Kitty
beautiful.
pocketbook, right? And I walk in,
Beautiful.
yes. The nurse behind the counter goes, "Oh, honey, let me get you back up to the fifth floor." And I'm like, "I did not escape the psych ward." And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I
Oh
thought
my
it was hilarious.
gosh.
I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And it made
She's
my
probably
day. Like,
mortified.
it made that, well, she was absolutely mortified,
Mm.
but it made the experience easier for me.
Hmm.
And as I went through my radiation treatments, I would come in a different color, and they would take bets on what color the hair would be when I showed up.
That's awesome.
And after about week 4 out of 5.5 weeks, I stopped wearing the wigs because I didn't have the energy to even put the wigs on.
Hmm.
I barely had the energy to change my underwear, and there were definitely some days that just did not happen.
Hmm.
But I would go through the mental exercise of envisioning Wonder Woman's panties, and I shouldn't have been driving. I was exhausted,
Hmm.
like a giant 300-pound cat. I slept 20 hours a day and then went in for treatment and came home and went back to bed, right? Like, yeah, in some ways the radiation was harder than the chemotherapy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about some of these things affecting your sense of feminism, right? Like your femininity and your feminine core. That's how you put it. And so how I'm trying to figure out how I want to phrase this
How
sentence
did I
here.
come back to it?
Yeah, yeah, like how did you come back to it? I didn't want to um skirt over the no, never mind. I'll take that part out. But anyway, yeah, how did you come back to it?
It was dating, and yeah, yeah, right, like,
Dating
so
men? or women or both or
Yes,
whatever?
yes,
Yeah.
dating. I'm pan, so
Mm.
I look
Hmm.
for what's inside.
Love you. Love that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I started dating and I met my now husband, and he was instrumental in a lot of ways in the way he brought romance and treated me like a woman, even though I didn't feel like a woman.
Mm.
So I would recommend putting yourself in situations where you feel feminine, like
Mm.
the dresses, if you're into it, the lingerie, just whatever makes you feel feminine, makeup, jewelry, nails, mani-pedis, like whatever it is that feels like sacred femininity to you, do it anyway.
And this is what
Because
you were doing before you, like while you were dating, right? Is that what you were saying?
right. It was before I met Dan and started that. It took me several years to work through all of that.
Mm.
M- After a year straight of just only being focused on defeating the cancer, and it was almost a year, that journey,
Wow.
there was no room for anything else, right? There was no room for me to process the fact that my womb tried to kill me. There was just no. You would think there would be some processing time, but there really wasn't. Like it's okay. So this is a doctor's appointment. This is a treatment. This is blood work, and it was just boom, 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 boom. No time to really step back, take time to reflect and process
Hmm.
what was going on.
Hmm.
And so after officially the treatments stopped, that's when the real healing began.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'd love to hear some of your healing steps that you took during that journey.
Um, I, I dated, I explored my sexuality, even though I was having issues with how my body was functioning post hysterectomy.
Hmm.
I wasn't able to have any kind of climax,
Right.
and I didn't think I was ever going to again. I managed after 5 years to have one, and then
And this was by yourself. Like you didn't have someone teaching you, coaching you how to, or a doctor's help. This was just you, right?
correct, this was just me, which
That's
is why it's
amazing.
so important what I do to help others, because women don't talk about it. Women don't talk about what happens to their body after they receive a hysterectomy, whether it's from cancer or uh,
Choice.
endometriosis,
Hmm.
POCS, like whatever, or choice, exactly.
Hmm.
Whatever the reason, it alters you in ways that you don't necessarily think about beforehand. And it can
And
make things difficult. I mean,
right.
some women experience vaginal dryness and they have to use lubricant for the rest of their lives. Some
Hmm.
women experience pain. Some women experience what I experienced, and to have an
Right.
orgasm, it's an act of Congress. Like it's just
Yeah. Well, in our
um
medical system, as you pointed out earlier, or maybe we were talking before we started recording, that our medical system as a basis was built on the male figure and the male body. And so it really isn't until very, very recently that we even started to do research on women's bodies and the very important differences that there are. And so with no, and there wasn't a lot of female doctors, right, either. And so with this lack of female representation in the medical community, And then also the education in the medical community, um, stemming from a male figure, it's like, what chance, does a woman have to learn from their doctor what might be happening to their bodies after you go?
So there is a biopsy that they will do on the cervix where they'll go up in there and they will cut off a piece of the
Yeah,
cervix
yeah,
and they will not give you
got
any
that.
anesthesia.
Hmm.
They tell you it's going to be a little pinch. I don't know any other procedure where they use a biopsy that they don't give you any anesthesia.
Mm.
That's barbaric.
Yeah.
It's insulting. It is one of the most sensitive areas on a woman's body, and you're going to know anesthesia? Are you absolutely nuts? Like, and it's only just now, like, people are aware that it's even happening because, again, women suffer in silence for
Right. That's why we're doing
humiliating
this,
or,
right? That's
or
why we're doing this.
exactly. I think it's very important to have conversations about it because it's common. It's very common. My hair is driving me nuts. I'm sorry. Um,
It's all right. Look at this guy I got over here. It's like Wiley.
it's great. It's great. He's he's pointing to the candle.
Yes.
It's very important for us to talk about stuff like this so that other women know that they are not alone and
Hmm.
that it's okay to have conversations about this or even like hoopsidence where I'll be in the grocery store and my body be like, okay, we have to go to the bathroom. I'll take 3 steps and my body's like, okay, done. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but we're not in the bathroom. My
Wait.
body's like, I don't care. And as a society, we're taught to be humiliated over that when
Hmm.
it's part of the human experience.
Yeah.
And if you get to the age, it's going to happen to you again because you've already been there because children do it all the time. Babies do it all the
Yeah,
time.
exactly. We've all already been there, right?
Exactly. So it's happened to you
Such a
at
good way of
least
thinking of
once.
it. Yeah.
So it's not funny when it happens to somebody. You don't know what their experience is. You have no idea what's going on with their health or
Hmm.
anything.
Right, right.
And one of the things that my cancer journey has taught me is to really just be kind to people because you have no idea what
Mm,
they are experiencing. And
mm,
it's very important to allow people to have grace and dignity.
yeah. That was really beautifully said. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are there any major um lessons or pieces? Because I'm interested in the not having the ability to orgasm, to climax for 5 years, and then teaching yourself in your body how to do it again. And so I'm curious within that piece of your beautiful story, if there's anything else that you'd like to share around that. It's okay if not, too.
So we're going to circle back to mindset because I do think that mindset is part of it. Maybe not all of it. I'm not entirely sure, but after the first couple tries and not being able to, I may have put a limiting belief on myself, saying that
Mm,
it was impossible. And then, so I'm still working through that. Here we are in year 16, and I'm still working through it.
yeah.
And there are other ways to find intimacy. It doesn't like, it's not
Preach.
always about it's not always about sex and climax and penetration and all that. Sometimes it's about holding hands and walking down the beach. Sometimes it's about cuddling and watching a movie. Sometimes it's about sitting together and enjoying a cup of coffee and nobody has any phones out. There are so many different ways, or even sitting together listening to an audible, like
Ooh, yes.
yes. And it
Mm.
can be, it can be one of them little naughty ones, right? So
Yeah, love it. Hey, you're gonna have to send me some that you have because I want to start
Okay.
doing that because I've started with the books, like reading erotic literature. I've done that for a long time actually. But I'm just learning about my own audio pleasures. And so I would love a recommendation if
So
you have
listen,
one.
women are audio by nature. We're
Mm.
more stimulated by sounds than we are by seeing
You
things.
know, that is so interesting. It makes total sense because
Doesn't it?
yes, like yeah, it just makes sense. I'm just thinking of like the women that I know and in regards to sound, which I've never really done before. And yeah, I can totally see that.
Well, if you're watching something a little spicy, like, focus on what you're actually enjoying. Are you enjoying the picture or are you enjoying the audio?
Right, right.
And most women enjoy the audio more than the picture.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Weird fact I learned somewhere along the line. I can't even remember where.
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. So sorry, I interrupted you. You were talking about all the different varieties of ways to experience intimacy and pleasure, right? That
Yeah,
have nothing really to do with orgasm.
yeah. I
Yeah, totally agree
mean,
with you.
sometimes you can just, you know, take turns and just make it about your partner, right? Like massage or cook them the dinner that they want and
Mm.
just make it a whole thing. Like you get a whole date night. So you make dinner or you order dinner or whatever, and then there's chocolates or flowers or whatever,
Yeah, it's
sacred
pampering.
bath.
Yes.
Yes, pampering your partner. And
Mhm.
those are intimate moments. And
Mm.
sometimes the intimacy it doesn't have to be just about pleasure. Sometimes it could be having a frank conversation about your money
Mhm.
or, you know, plan
Yeah,
your vacation or, how was your day at work and just actively listen instead of passive listen.
yeah,
There's a
yeah. There's
lot.
a I like to call them games or exercise that I sometimes have had couples do, and it's called listening turns. And you have a little timer, right? Each person gets 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever. And you just sit there and you just listen to the other person, and they can talk about whatever they want to talk about. They don't have to talk at all, but you give them undivided attention for the allotted time. And it's not a dialogue, and there's no questions being asked. You're just listening, and then uh, you switch, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be very powerful to just be witnessed and listened to.
Amazing. It's
Mhm.
amazing because so many of us don't feel heard.
Mm. Oh,
So
yeah.
that when you take the time to just be present and hold space for somebody,
Mm.
not only is it intimate, but it's powerful
Mhm.
and it builds a better connection with that person.
Yeah. And I would think that it helps them build a better connection with themselves too, because they're finally have that permission, right? Either from themselves or another person, that it's okay to just talk about your experience, right? I think that's
Yes.
why I mean, I like to think that's why we get along so well is because in our worlds in the work that we do, sometimes just giving someone 30 minutes of your undivided attention is all they need. And they didn't know that they could get that before we offer it to them or before, they meet us or something. So
Yeah.
appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, my, I'm just like, I'm so happy right now. My cheeks kind of hurt. Okay.
These conversations are important.
Yeah, they are. And I'm filled with like um gratitude and joy because uh I know the domino effect of you sharing your story or of us talking about the different types of intimacy and pleasure that you can bring into your life. That has nothing to do with sex, right? or talking about how important mindset is and how powerful it can be and change the trajectory of your life, you know? So people need to know that stuff.
Yeah,
So
they absolutely do.
they need to know. Yeah.
Mindset is super important. There was the second round of chemo. I went in, I didn't have a power port, and it took an ER nurse 45 minutes to tap my vein, and that was
Mm,
hands down one of the worst days of my life. I mean, ER nurses are pros at that. Um, and eh, there was a decision. There was a decision. I prayed.
uh-huh.
I do the spiritual thing, so I prayed and I cannot do this anymore. So if this is what has to happen, if this is where I'm supposed to be, she needs to she needs to tap me the next time she tries because I'm done. I cannot
Mm.
handle this anymore. And by the grace of goddess, here I am. Like she nailed the
Wow. Yeah.
and y- keeping your faith, keeping your spirituality through an ordeal like that is very challenging.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that was the moment for me that I knew that that it wasn't going to be challenging for me
Mm.
in that like asking God why. That's a ridiculous question. Like, that's a ridiculous question. It you're not going to get an answer. It doesn't help you at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
you're welcome.
Yeah. Is there anything that you particularly want to leave people with? I'm gonna, everyone watching, I'm gonna be putting in how to follow Tonya in the comments below. And I think you wanted to offer something for free as well, a little gift.
I
So do
have
you
a
want to tell
free
people
gift.
about that?
Sure. It's a little document about the two essential oils that I used every day while I was going through chemotherapy.
Mm,
So I'd love to offer your audience that.
awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll put that in the comments below as well. Um, you can follow Tanya on Facebook and then also on YouTube. So I'll be putting all these links into the comments. But yeah, is there anything in particular that you'd like to leave the audience with today?
You can do whatever you put your mind to.
Mm, nice.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you very much, Aubrey, for having me today.
Oh,
It was a
I'm
pleasure.
so, yeah, no, you're so welcome. And I really appreciate you coming on and being so open and being so vulnerable um, with this topic. I think it leads a really wonderful example for the women in my group. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to stop recording.